We've been to MacArthur Park, and we saw people are doing drugs there, a lot of drugs. And there are fires too, right?
There are fires on the sidewalk next to the buildings, on 7th, on Wilshire, on 6th, and there are fires in the park. You'll see 7 to 10 foot high bonfires. Those are usually to keep warm. And then you'll see a balance of ankle height fires that are used to cook meth. And there are, interestingly, park hours that are posted. That park is 24/7 open. And you'll find tents, you'll see...
The park hours is 24/7?
Not the stated hours, but the city has allowed the park to become a de facto shelter. It's a tough area. Criminals, to elude the police, get on the roofs and use the rooftops to escape the police. They block alleys. They make it very difficult for the city and for the local hauler there to even empty basic trash dumpsters. And some are closed, some can't be closed because the back ends of the apartments go into the alleyways. So they have to stay open. And if you drive down one side or the other, you might not get past what you find. It's very unsafe. And I've been accused, and people that are bringing this issue up have been accused because they've said, well, the people that you're referring to that are in the parks are of color, they're brown, they're black. And statistically, perhaps in MacArthur Park there are. Otherwise, there are many Caucasian, Asians, and I've been accused of being racist in that regard until I tell them my real concerns to try to help and save our properties and businesses and jobs. And I tell them that my grandmother's maiden name is Jimenez. Usually stops them in their tracks.
What is there that's blocking these alleys?
People living in the alleys, people with knives, people with guns. In the last 2 weeks, we had a shooting that involved 6 people. There are 5 to 6 overdoses a day. Fire Station 11 on 7th Street. It's the smallest station, most dedicated firefighters, really good men and women. Smallest station in all of LA County, but the busiest in the country. And you can stand on a corner on Wilshire, Alvarado, 7th, and you'll see a fire truck leave there every 10 or 15 minutes. It's just very busy, and 90% of their purpose is overdose and fires, and revolving around that park.
You mentioned there are fires right next to the businesses. What are those fires for?
Those are started by homeless and drugs and cooking. The city has legalized vending, but in this area, it's all run by illegal operations and Mexican cartel. The front is fine. You'll see vegetables, you'll see toilet paper, you'll see soap.
So these are vendors that are in the street that are selling?
Blocking the entrances to the ground floors of the retail. So the retailers try to do business. They can't open their doors because you have to pass all this. So a lot of the retail ground floors are empty because the vendors take over during the day. And they take over literally. They're defecating on the curb. They're peeing. They're dumping the grease from what they're frying. The health department would not allow any restaurant to operate or cook food in that manner. And that's what's happening in the Westlake area of LA and other areas, but more prevalent here. And then behind the scenes of the carts, you'll find individual men always on the move. And they're the sidewalk landlords, and they're extorting payments from the vendors and also selling drugs. The main business, the main source of economic revenue in the Westlake area are drugs and money that goes back to the home countries of El Salvador, Guatemala, and Mexico.
Now, when was it that you figured out that behind these vendors, there are people that are collecting money? How did you figure that out?
Well, I was approached as a building owner in direct way and then in a direct way to allow the sidewalk in front of a portion of my building to be used in exchange for money. And in one case, a threat. And I would never take money. I've never taken any money, and it doesn't happen in my book. And none of my tenants are involved with that. But there are landlords and there are tenants and absentee landlords and tenants that just put up with it, and they let it happen. And some of the retailers can't complain, because if they complain, they're threatened and their families are threatened. So we've got 67% of the population down there is illegal. That's more than any area of LA County. And it's in the top 90 percentile of the whole country in that small area of MacArthur Park, Westlake. So it's something the city really needs to take care of. And the fire issue is something we're worried about. I have been in contact with the mayor and the police chief about the problem. The day before she left for Ghana at the behest of President Biden for the inauguration, she called me and I asked her to stay in town. I said, we've got a terrible situation here. It doesn't feel right, and I feel like the tensions are what they were during the 1992 riots, the Rodney King riots, and in the Santa Monica 2020 riots. And I said, there's a lot of tension here, and if we don't, it would be very embarrassing for our city and for you if you have to turn around and come back. If someone dies, a group of people die, there's rioters. And she went. She said, I'll only be gone 2 days. I said, no, you'll be gone more than that. And this position is a 24/7 position. You've got to be on top of things every day and all night. And what we've seen since has gotten worse.
So what kind of tension do you see? Who's the tension between who and who?
It's a very aggressive group of drug cartel members down there. And the police are reacting and not being proactive. They're not the city, they're following what they're supposed to do. They're doing a great job, but they're getting their commands from the council and chief who's appointed by the mayor. And the mayor's idea for stemming the illegal drug activity, the violence, the physical threats, the sex trade business after hours, was to put up chain link fence. Now, that's a temporary, that's like putting a Band-Aid on something when you have cancer. And the vendors didn't like it. They tried to take the fence down. It has openings at every crosswalk, parking lots it's opened, but they didn't want it because it restricted the vending. So they just simply moved across the street. So it's not solving the problem, and it's escalating the problem. And at night, sometimes the only way down Alvarado is staying on the yellow double-line median strip, because the interaction from cartel members from the building side to the park side is constant, and they know who belongs and who doesn't.
So if you're walking there or if you're driving?
You wouldn't be walking there if you wanted to live the next day. But if you're driving, you stay in the center of the street and you get out of there. And you make sure that you're not too close to the sidewalk, because people will come and break your door, break your window, or reach in and grab something. It's very violent.